What's going on, everybody? It is the next installment of Growth Group Video. These are videos that I, Joe, help you drive discussion in your groups. This one, they always seem to be recorded in odd places, but this one is in my van. I'm headed to a door company to pick up a couple of lever handles for some of the doors at the warehouse so that we can get those installed tonight. Hashtag life of a pastor. This is just kind of like how it happens, but good times. Just want to get this out to you guys. I hope you're having a good week. Hope things are going well. But we are in this new series, which is super awesome, and it's called Change Your World in 52 Days. And it is all about kind of stepping through the book of Nehemiah. And we were able to kick that off this past weekend. And the message was really, wasn't what I thought I was going to talk about, but it was really centered around this idea of what do we do when things are not okay? What do we do when things are not okay? And, I think that we all have a different personalities, different approaches to that kind of stuff. But I think that we all do have to deal with it. I think some of us choose to hide. We choose to pretend that things are okay. Others of us, we can't stop talking about it, and we process verbally all the time with folks, and they just love that, I'm sure. But I think that the goal of this growth group is just to kind of unpack that a little bit, to spend some time talking about the passage we looked at and just kind of see where the discussion goes. And I hope that you guys can connect really well around this. And I think it's gonna be a great night. So here's the first thing that I would love for you to talk about. It's something that we do with our students sometimes, and sometimes with our family, is we do this thing called the good, the bad, and the God. The good, the bad, and the God. So I would love for you guys to take a second and go around the group and just ask the question, or I should say answer the question, what happened this week or in the last couple of days that was good? What is something that happened in the last couple of days that wasn't so good, was bad? And then what happened the past few days that maybe you would say, man, this was a real God thing that happened. It's a real God thing that happened. So the good, the bad, the God. You may not have an answer for all three. You may not have an answer for any of them. But why don't you take a second it's kind of a good way to catch up with each other about how things are going and what your week has been like and what life has been like for you in the recent past. So take a minute to ask yourself and ask each other, what was good, what was bad, and where did you see God this week? Awesome. Pause the video. All right, so this next question is kind of a deeper version of that last question, the good, the bad, the God. So this is a little deeper, a little bit more of a finer point to that question. So here it is. Talk about a time in your past when something about you, about your life, or about the life of someone else in your family, your friends, your coworkers, when something was not okay. So talk about a time in your past, kind of looking for something that's more historical than something that's necessarily going on right this moment. But it's okay if it is, but just trying to kind of get that conversation going around a time in your life in the past when something was not okay. And then kind of putting a little bit more to it. What did you do when things were not okay? What did you do? How did you feel? How did you feel when things were not okay? And maybe if it's a person that you're talking about, maybe someone else's situation, what did they do? How did they feel? And what was kind of going on with that? Describe that a little bit, because I think it kind of helps us understand where Nehemiah goes in the passage we're about to read. So answer that question now, talk about that, and we'll be back. So you know the drill. Pause the video. Keep your eyes on the road. Wow. All right. I made the pickup. We're good to go. And I hope that you guys were able to get a good discussion in while I did that. So here's the next step. I want you guys to kind of dig into the passage that we looked at over the weekend. And if you weren't there, that's totally fine. This is going to allow you to kind of catch up a little bit and maybe dig a little deeper along with everybody else that was there. So the passage that I want you to look at is really the second passage. It was the passage that was where Nehemiah had heard the news. He had sat down, he wept, he fasted, he mourned, he prayed, and then he said, as Scripture says, you'll pick up in chapter 1, where he begins to pray a prayer that's a different prayer, all caps, different. And it's this moment, this pivot point in his life where things are different. And it's kind of, he got through that low point of the mourning and the fasting and the praying, and he came up out of that, and then he began to pray. Now, things were still not okay, but it's like he shifted his gears. Something happened where he prayed this prayer. And so it's Nehemiah chapter 1, verses 5 through 11. Now, before you guys jump off and read that, it's kind of broken up. It seems like a lot of verses, but it's kind of broken up, depending on the version that you read, between 2 or 3 paragraphs. And I think it might be helpful for you guys to kind of read. You could read the whole thing, but maybe then break up that passage into those 2 or 3 sections and talk about those sections together. What is Nehemiah's goal and point of that particular part of his prayer? And I think that will be really good for you guys to talk about and to understand kind of where he's going with that prayer. So dig into that right now. Nehemiah chapter 1, verses 5 through 11. So that was Nehemiah praying, and I think that it communicates, like I said earlier, that there was this moment in Nehemiah's life where he had a change of heart, or a redirection of his heart. I think the next question to discuss would be, have you ever had a moment like that? It's kind of interesting. I'm at a red light while I'm talking, but it's like a pause here. It's like a time for us to really think, like, has there ever been a moment in your life where you had a pivot or a shift in your thinking, where you like, it's almost like a light went on with God or your faith, where you realized that, you know, maybe me sulking and me being sad or me being angry isn't necessarily going to bring about the resolution that I want, and I need to change. I need to put my 100% faith in God. Maybe for you, that was a moment when you stepped over the line of faith and you surrendered your life to God. Maybe it was when you were baptized. Maybe it was years after both of those things. Maybe it's a moment that you haven't had yet. Maybe that's something that you're looking for, and that you're hoping to experience. But, you know, just take a moment just to share with each other if there's been a time in your life when that moment like Nehemiah experienced happened to you. All right, pause video. You know, if you were at second place this past week, you know that it was a very powerful time together in all of the services. And I hope that, and I pray that those moments continue. And I believe that God will bless us as we pursue Him. I think that it doesn't do any of us a whole lot of good to keep it inside, though. So I think it's been awesome for you guys to share together today or tonight in growth group, and to just get to know each other a little bit more, because I think that having come out of our relationship series, just Google that, you know, sharing like we did tonight is really how relationships are built, and it's the beginning building blocks, and so that's awesome. The last challenge that I'll give you guys to take with you is to take a few minutes and maybe just share about a person in your life that may need your help. Somebody that might need some encouragement, that might need some help with some homework, or some help with something that they're working on at their house, or something that they might need help with their kids. And maybe think about that for a minute, and then go around the group and just share that person and what their need might be, and commit to doing something for that person this week. Commit to saying, you know what, I'm gonna do this for them this week, so that they know that they're not alone and that they have some help. I think whenever we have a moment with God, whenever we have just an impact in our heart where God does something, it drives us outward. And when we keep it inward is when that thing that God gives us, that moment, that life, it starts to fade. And I would also say, don't run out of the group tonight without asking the question if there's any prayer requests that are in your group that might need to be prayed for. Maybe there's something that was shared during the good, the bad, and the God that you guys could pray for. Maybe there was something that was shared from someone's past that was not okay, that could be prayed for, some healing that might need to happen. I think that would be outstanding. And the way to do that, I would say, is just kind of ask and see if there's any prayer requests. And then if there are, see if there might be a person that would volunteer to pray for prayer request number 1. And then maybe someone else could pray for prayer request number 2. And maybe a third person could pray for prayer request number 3, and so on. And just kind of go around and pray. And I think even if you don't have any prayer requests in your group, maybe those names that you shared about people that you want to help this week, maybe you could pray for those folks. So I'm going to sign off. I am so proud of you guys. We have the soul workouts that are going on. We have the weekend services this weekend. We've got growth groups, so much happening. And we love that you guys are engaging in small groups, in community, through our growth groups. And you guys keep up the great work, and good job getting to growth group tonight. We'll see you very soon. Love you all. Bye.